Another important part of the current legal framework is anti-discrimination and equal employment opportunity, so EEO. So we're going to look at both of these, but we're specifically going to look at what they mean, but you also need to know what the laws are and what effect that has on human resources. So on the human resources person or the human resources department, depending on the size of the business, what it means for them, because you're looking here from the perspective of the HR managers. So we'll just split it down the middle and we'll start with anti-discrimination. Anti-discrimination is about it being illegal to discriminate on things like gender, race, disability, and age. And there's a whole lot of other things like transgender, blah, blah, blah. But the reason that it is illegal are that we have laws. Now, we have the Anti-Discrimination Act in New South Wales, but we also have a suite, like SUITE, of Commonwealth laws that cover the entire country. So we have the Sex Discrimination Act, we have the Racial Discrimination Act, we have the Disability Discrimination Act, and we have the Age Discrimination Act. So you can see I've just put it in the same order. You know, we've got the Anti-Discrimination Act, which is kind of a cover-all one for New South Wales. But usually if you're looking at larger businesses, they're going to be companies, and companies are covered by Commonwealth laws. So you can see what I've done there is I've changed the colours according to, you know, like they all have Discrimination Act in them. So you really can't go wrong. As long as you put something at the start of Discrimination Act. So if you put age, the one about age discrimination is called the Age Discrimination Act. I guess they're trying not to discriminate against people that aren't very bright. So they just name them all the kind of the same thing. So they have all those different laws. Now, what does that mean for human resources in the business? Well, it means that the HR managers, they need to know those laws back to front, and they need to apply them very, very strictly. In fact, what they usually do is they go a little bit further to make sure, and we're going to look at equal employment opportunity, going that little bit further to make sure that you're over-complying, that you're doing even better than the minimum. Discrimination complaints usually will become bad publicity. Once it gets in the newspapers that someone has been discriminated against, it's going to affect your business, it's going to affect your profits, and it can sink the business if it's like, you know, all the way through the business and it's, at every single level. But you really don't want that bad publicity because for a lot of businesses, half of your customers, or, 51, 52% of your customers are going to be women. So you don't want to discriminate against women. A huge percentage of your customers are going to be from different nationalities. You're going to have, even though a smaller percentage are going to have disabilities, you really don't want to be the business that's discriminating against a disabled person. You don't want to be that business. So other than the obvious moral reasons for not discriminating against all these different groups, there's also the reason that it will affect your business. There's also equal employment opportunity, and we call that EEO, which is going beyond complying with that basic don't discriminate to actually do active things to allow equal access to all parts of the business for all different groups. So when it comes to, not just the employment, don't discriminate based on employment, but you really want women, or you want people of different nationalities, or you want people with disabilities, or you want people of different ages. You want them to be at all different levels of the business, doing all different jobs. You don't just want to go, okay, the women are going to do, the secretarial work, and the men are going to do the manager's work. You can't do that. So what you want to do is go beyond that. There is a law called the Equal Opportunity for Women in the Workplace Act, where all employers with 100 or more employees have to have an affirmative action program to promote equal opportunity, specifically for women though. Now what they need to do is they need to report on this, the program that they've got, to the Equal Opportunity for Women in the Workplace Agency, right? So you've got EOW, so Equal Opportunity for Women in the Workplace Act. And then you report to an agency and say, look, this is what we're doing. This is our affirmative action program. And if they're not doing it correctly, then they can, I think they get the name of the business gets read out in Parliament or something like that. Some ridiculously, tiny penalty. But it is still important to show, especially for businesses that have traditionally been male dominated. You want to show in the legal businesses and things like that. You want to show that you do have equal opportunities for women. On top of the fact that, women do contribute, just as well as men, and in my opinion, women are much smarter than men, can contribute so much to the business. It's ridiculous to not allow them to do that. But anyway, that's not related to business, that's just personal. For human resources, this includes things like keeping statistics about the numbers of women in different jobs within the business. Now, what they do is they, divide it by the number of people, that are working there, and they go, right, 7% of our upper management are women. and 93% of men. That is going to send off some sort of warning sign and say, look, we need to try to promote more women. Not necessarily saying, right, we're not going to hire a man, but if you've got a man and a woman going for the job and they're equally qualified, hire the woman, right? If you just have to flip a coin anyway, just, err on the side of the woman, right? Another thing that it means for HR is setting targets. Try to set targets for the number of people or the minimum percentages, so we call them quotas, for affirmative action. We want to be able to say, right, our target is by the end of 2014, we want to have at least 20% of women in upper management positions. What is it now? It's 7%. Okay, so how do we get there, right? So that's the kind of thing that we're talking about. So not just going, all right, we're not going to actively discriminate against women. We are going to, actively try to make sure that women, have equal opportunities, right? And it's not about, discriminating against men. It's trying to give equal opportunities for women. So that's part of the current legal framework. And for a large business, you have to remember that the Sex Discrimination Act, the Racial Discrimination Act, Disability Discrimination Act, Age Discrimination Act, and the Equal Opportunity for Women in the Workplace Act will all apply, right? So your HR department has to be knowledgeable in all those different areas.